All right. Welcome everyone to the Unforgettable Experiences live show. I'm very excited to be with my friend Karen Hite, and we're going to be talking all about the events that she creates through their agency. And but we'll probably end up talking about event experiences that we both had in common and things that we've enjoyed along the way. But today is going to be all about Karen and the events that she's created. So really excited. But Karen, why don't you just tell everybody a little bit about yourself and how you even got into the world of doing events.
That's a loaded question. Oh my goodness. Okay, so we started events really, I don't know, it was like one of JC's crazy things. JC Heights, my husband. We started our agency about 6 years ago. And through that, we just got to experience the journey of being an entrepreneur, just like how crazy that was. And one of the things that we realized is that, hey, like we need to surround ourselves with people that know what they're doing or that have done this before we have done it. We started as a white label agency, then we moved into a franchise, and then we just added a direct a branch. And so through all of this, like so many ups and downs, right, just like entrepreneurship as a whole. And so we started looking for events, and we started looking for places to where to connect with people. And it was actually at an event that JC just was talking to the event organizer, and it's like, hey, like, if I were to do like, if I did my own event, like it would be like this, and we would like to like add this and like this components, and we were just like dreaming. He's a dreamer, he's the visionary, right? And so he was just dreaming about it, and that person just, hey, like, why don't you do the event? Like, do it next year and like start now. And so it was one of those things that, like to like God put them two together, like one a person to challenge, a visionary, like
Yep.
perfect mix for this to happen. And so he left that event literally with a contract to like do his event the next year. That's how crazy that was. And so we started doing events. We also started doing masterminds through like wanting to connect with people. And so we've always just had this, I think,
Yeah.
desire to like for connection, in general. I don't know, maybe probably some like childhood trauma that
How many
pushes us.
years ago was that JC first got challenged to do an event?
That was 3 years ago.
Well, that was just 3 years ago.
That was
Oh my
just 3
goodness.
years ago. Yeah. And so our first event was literally with Damon John from Shark Tank, Jesse Itzler, Kevin Hare. Like, it was like crazy. Like, we didn't start like the normal way that I would recommend
So
at
you
least to start.
didn't. So you
Yeah.
started with a lofty vision, which is not surprising
Yeah.
because you guys are entrepreneurs at heart
Yeah.
and you're willing to do crazy things. Like you're right now in the middle of this 0 to 10,000 challenge
Oh,
that you guys
goodness.
did this year. I
Yeah.
don't know if you're still in the middle of that or is
Yeah.
that over?
Yeah. We're on take two. We'll update on that. But yeah, we
Yeah.
just updated the group on that.
All right. So your story though about deciding to do an event is actually similar to the story that we had at Social Media Examiner, where Mike and I were going to different conferences, and one day he calls me from a conference and says, "Hey Phil, I've got this crazy idea. What do you think if we started our own conference?"
Wow.
And he said, "I met this lady who told me that hey, we don't have to know everything. She can help us." And then it
Yeah.
turned out she couldn't help us, but we found someone like her who could
Yeah.
help us. And we had that crazy idea to start one too. So let's talk about from point of signing the contract
Yeah.
to that first event. What were some of the things that you knew you wanted to make happen when you created that first event?
Great. Like I feel like we had a lot of ideas. One of the thing I think like everybody like that's throwing events like will agree probably is like you have so many ideas, and then in the execution, like, okay, like did that work and that didn't work. But in terms of expectations, what we were wanting to do, we wanted to create this environment where people could bring their families. I think like that was just like a big thing for us that we were traveling so much. We like were running the business, and I feel everybody like goes into the same thing of like, man, I have to like step away from my family to go to this events where I need to grow. I need to invest in my self development. I need to invest in like making like really great connections that you never know, like partnerships, collaborations will happen. But especially when you have like young children or just you're very involved, like it was just really hard. So like we really wanted to have that family component, which is one of our values. Another thing that we wanted to do is just like we wanted to have like an intimate setting, but bring like high quality people. And we felt like anytime that we were able to go to listen to any of this like major speakers speak on, or talk about, their life and their journey, it was in that mass of like 4,000, 8,000, which makes total sense because that's the only way that you can afford those type of speakers, right? Like you have to like sort of like make it a very profitable event where you're like, okay, like this person's charging me $100,000. I need to like divide that by like so many people, which totally makes sense. So we wanted to like, but we wanted to do something different. We wanted to like have more of an intimate setting where if they could like even speak to that person, like one on one, that would be like amazing for us. And so like that was one of our dreams. And then another thing that we wanted to really do is create an experience for it not to be the regular, like, hey, I'm going to go to the event, to the conference, and then I'm going to leave and go to my hotel. And then, like, it's up to me to be social, and like create new relationships. We wanted to help people. I'm an introvert from nature. Like, I know it doesn't look like that, but I'm an introvert. And so, like, to
That's a
me, that's
surprise.
yeah. And
We'll go there, but let's keep going.
it surprises everybody, but I really, like I get overwhelmed, when I go to like this massive
Mm,
conferences.
mm.
I love to connect with people, but it's just like very overwhelming when it's like 4,000 people and like I'm just like feeling like, oh my goodness, like I need to go to the bathroom and have a break. And so those were the three main things that we were dreaming to do for TCS.
And let's just be clear here. You said high quality people, and that's not just the speakers. You serve agencies, right? Digital
Correct.
marketing agencies. So
Correct.
that's an important thing to understand when you're designing your event, that these are agency owners. So saying, hey, you can bring your family is a big deal because entrepreneurs by nature are busy and
Yes.
maybe don't get as much family time as they would want to. And so to be able to say, hey, this is a vacation and
Yeah.
a conference, that sounds pretty attractive.
It's the perfect, like, taxable or tax deductible, for your business as well. It's like you put in, like, the conference and, like, literally you got a vacation for your family. I think in many ways it was genius, and it just allowed us to we bring our kids to and, like, they're on stage also, and so, like, it just allowed us to create that atmosphere that we were gonna do no matter what, right? And so I've loved we've had, like, babies in the room, which, like, some of the calmest babies I've ever seen, like, they never cried, but I've held babies like at our conferences. Like I've seen kids, just like drawing while their mom and dad are like listening to like Damon John, like just this crazy sort of like experiences. And we've loved doing that.
And obviously that doesn't work at every conference, but it does reinforce
Yeah.
a value that you have. And it's an important value that you're trying to help business or agency owners with their whole life. It's not just how do you get more dollars out of every customer, but how do you create a life that you're going to love? And it sounds like the environment that you've created is going to facilitate that conversation just as much as it does of how do you create a better funnel. Is that right?
I mean, at the end of the day, like we wanted the conference to be the conference that we would attend. And so like if I'm able to like think about what I would enjoy, I'm sure that there's other people that have similar goals, similar values. And I think that's where you can actually build a community. Like you have these people that are looking for the same things. And so it's kind of hard, and you know this probably more than anybody, like when you're hosting events, it's kind of hard to like check every person's boxes that are attending, like what they're wanting to get out of it. And so like we've always just thought about it like what would we enjoy if we were to be like the person or like the agency buying that ticket and just trying to put ourselves in the shoes of the attendee.
Now, this is a really interesting point because something that I teach is you're not the ideal customer for
And
most
I'm
event
like saying
planners. No,
yeah,
but I think in your case you are,
hmm,
because you're actually part of that audience. You have an agency
yeah,
and you help agency owners, and so you are the audience. You're very
yeah,
similar to the people that you're trying to serve. Whereas for me,
oh
I'm
yeah,
a 50-something-year-old guy, and our typical customer coming to social media market world is a woman between 30 and
mhm,
45. So I don't see a lot of similarities except that we're, from North America and have a lot of other things in common. So I can't design an event that
yeah,
is for someone just like me. And early on I tried because I thought,
yeah,
oh, I'm going to enjoy this. So certainly everybody else will. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, well, maybe they don't. But I still think it requires extra thought, don't you, Karen, where you need
yeah,
to know these people. And I've heard you say, and I've heard others say about you, that one of the things that sets you apart is you try to get to know every person that's coming to the conference to know how you can serve them. And that's forced you to make some decisions about how big the event can be. And it
yeah,
allows you to do things for people because you know things about them. Talk a little bit about that and how that looks.
That has been the one thing that has shaped, the size of our event. We started our first year with 350. It was like for us I mean, let's think about this. We're not hosting events and then we went into hosting events, out of like a year. 300 people was a lot. And so for us and especially managing the level of service that we wanted to provide to our attendees
Mm.
definitely felt like a lot. And so understanding how you want to serve people and like what's the thing that you want to accomplish is number one. For us, we want to get to know everybody, so like we actually schedule calls with all the attendees before the event to see what exactly they're wanting to get of the event, where their agencies are at. For us, is a way to serve them, so that way I have some agencies that are like, hey, I'm actually really struggling with client retention right now, and if that's not going to be one of the topics that I'm going to touch upon the event, like I think it would be a disservice, to bring somebody to spend time focusing on shiny objects probably for them at that point when they have like real problems. And so like the way that we have done is through this strategy calls, we actually connect them with somebody from our team, or we give them a resource. It's kind of like a taste of what our mastermind really is. And we can talk more about like what's the funnel, I guess, for a host for an event. But for us, it's a taste of like what we get to do on a daily basis for our members, right? And so like, but we get to solve their problems, so that way when they come to the event, whether they want to sign up for the mastermind or not, that's not the goal, right? It's just like they get to the event with having something already solved. And so I think when we're able to have those wins for our attendees, then they get to experience the event with really just, hey, I'm here to learn, I'm here to like just see like and just like a better experience than having somebody that's like still focused on like, man, I needed to solve this in my head and I never got to talk about that problem.
I love that for several reasons. One is when someone shows up and you've already given them so much value, they feel like they maybe have already, got the value out of the ticket, right?
Yeah.
Before they
Yeah.
ever even arrive. So that's really cool. You're getting insights on who these people are and maybe people that they should meet while
Yeah,
they're there, I'm
absolutely. Oh,
assuming.
yeah. We connect if you have no idea. So, like, we connect them even before the event happens. Like, we do this Facebook group chat, or I make some introductions, like one-on-one on chats. And so, like, they get to feel like, oh, wow, like, not only I know you because, like, I probably have seen you, in the space. Like, we're all connected in social media. Like, I've seen you, like, posting and things like that. But I actually got an introduction to this person and got to connect with people. And that to me is like, that's when I feel like super excited about this event, because I get to see like, oh man, like yeah, we started partnering on this, or this person helped me on that. It's not about me solving people's problem. It's like about the community coming together to really like focus on how do we grow this to be what we want it to be. How do we grow our businesses to what we want it to be?
Now, you personally are on a call with all 350 people, or are you spreading that across the team?
So the first year we spread it around because it was too many. This year I'm like trying to do it because we narrow it down. Like we noticed how much like there were people that in the first CCS I could only say hi to. Like I actually like at the event I was not
Right.
able to like really go in depth, and so like I felt just like that. It feels crappy for me. It feels crappy as a host that they paid all this money, and like I wanted to connect with them. It's just like
Mhm.
for a matter of time, and they got a lot of value, but I that's like me, that's me as a person. So like we tune it down to we cap it at 100 this year. So we only have 22 tickets left this year to sell, which is really good considering it's 2 months away. So that's pretty good. But it's just because like I knew. And so like this year I'm actually having calls with every single person.
Which helps you a lot as the
Yes.
organizer to be able to connect, which is really
And even
fascinating. Yeah.
even from the agenda perspective, Phil, I mean, like now
Mm.
I'm getting, as I'm talking to those people, I'm getting insights into what is the most valuable thing. So, like most speakers, like they have topics to talk about, but they love if you can tell them, like, hey, this is the problem we want to solve in this session, right? And so I actually included an add-on session that I had not thought about, because I was able to like have conversations so far where everybody, like one person gave me that idea of like, this is where I'm struggling, and then I asked another person and I was like, will you like find interest in this? And so like I just added that to the agenda. So I'm really
I
excited about
love
that.
that. Now you're waiting until someone's already paid money and to sign up, or are you doing a pre-screening to make sure that someone's a fit for your
We
event?
do we do a pre-screening. So we go into, because not So one of the things that I want to make sure is that I understand if the event is going to give you an ROI, which is probably not, I think like very little events like focus on like, okay, like do this, is this good event going to be give you an ROI? I think most events just like focus on like, let's build a community and let's get people in and hopefully they find an ROI through the speakers and like focusing on the agenda, right? For us, it's a little bit different. Like I try to make sure that the quality of people that are coming from values perspective, from, like just what they're trying to do in the business, it gives me the confidence to know that I don't have to babysit people. They're gonna be able to connect a lot quicker. And so, like, that's one of the things that we do. And so, it's a pre-screening for them to buy an event, unless they're coming through like one of our speakers or like one of our sponsors. That they have the same values and that we have already talked about that. And so, and then we go into the strategy call after they have signed up for the ticket.
So they're actually getting 2 calls, or is it
Yeah,
all in the same call? Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah. They're
Okay.
getting 2 calls. Yeah.
And is the
hmm
first call the pre-screening with you as well, or is that with your team?
No, that's with me.
So
I'm
you're
full force into this. So like guys,
yeah.
like just buy your ticket. Don't make me like follow up with you.
So the event planner in me is saying, okay, how far in advance are you starting to have these calls? Because
Oh,
you can't, even with 100 people,
yeah.
that's 200 calls. And I'm
Yeah.
assuming these are at least 30-minute calls, right?
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
So
So,
that's a lot of time. How far in advance do you start doing the screening calls and the strategy calls?
oh, we started like months ago. Months ago. Like this has been happening. And a lot of them also like are people that are returning. So I already have conversations happening. So like that's a beautiful thing about like hosting events, consecutively. It's like you get to meet people, you get to have like ad hoc conversations.
Mm.
So I know where people are like focusing on. And so I'm either, hey, we're gonna solve it at the event, or I'm taking notes while we're doing the screening. I'm also like having a document where I take notes so the team can have this, because what we do is that at the event we have this again, it's just like the introvert in me. How can we help people connect? So we've created this thing called concierge. And so concierge really helps you. They have the database of all the attendees, all their problems, the people that they have to connect them with. And so at the event, we have our team focusing, okay, like that person needs to connect with that person. I'm going to go, hey, have you like met this person? And then at the networking sessions that we have or hours. So like they're in charge of like getting people to talk to each other
Mm.
and based
Okay.
on what the need is. Yeah.
I love that. So let's talk for a minute about being an introvert and
Yeah.
networking, because I'm an
Yeah.
introvert too. You may or may
Yeah.
not have figured that out. Like I get all my energy from lots and lots of time of being alone. I know what it's like to go on stage and look like I'm full of life and everything, but if I came to your
Yeah.
event and I didn't know anybody, I would be a
Yeah.
wallflower, until you figured out how to draw me in. Like, that's how I would show up, not because I want to,
That's
that's just how I'm
yeah.
designed.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you've figured out some ways to use your introversion to your advantage, or at least to know how to work around it. And most most people in most events, there's at least 50% who would consider themselves introverted. We
Yeah.
found up to 70% would call themselves introverted. Some of them have figured out the skills. Others of them are so shy that they won't talk to anyone unless
Yeah.
you really draw them in. So, what have you learned, both for yourself as well as helping the people who are coming to your event to maybe get past that and feel like, hey, this is going to be really valuable to be part of this community?
Well, I think you have to be intentional, about the activities that you're doing for the people to the attendees to be able to feel comfortable. You cannot just and there's different ways of doing, activities that will push people, like because you also like don't want to like push people to feel uncomfortable about the interactions that they're having. And so, we have tested, a few things. We have tested doing like a when you put like people in like line, like just like in lines, and so like you're doing like speed dating type of thing, and so like
Right.
5 minutes you go to or 10 minutes you go to the next person and so on. So like that's an easy way to like, okay, just get to like just talk to somebody without really having to go in depth into a conversation. And so for us, that concierge part has been, I think in my case, allowing times in the agenda to have networking and then also like downtime, right? So like, because as an introvert, like if you go 8 hours, at a conference, just like bam, bam, like just smiling and like, like there's just so much energy.
Right.
that you go through it. I'm normally done, honestly, at day 3, I'm like, by the end of day 3, I do not exist. I don't wanna talk to anybody. I'm, like, done with my life, but, it really helps to, like, have those opportunities for, like, downtime and, like, "Okay, now we're gonna have, like, just everybody you can go to the coffee shop." That's one of the things what that has helped us is having the events at an all-inclusive resort has been super powerful because if they want to be extra extroverted, then they can go and sit down in the, like you have the cafeterias and the restaurants, and so you can find people to like sit down to and you start conversations. But if you don't, there's like the coffee place where you can go into like a more intimate type of setting, and if you want to talk, you can talk, or you can go back to your room right away. So you have those opportunities when if you put the agenda in the right way, and like normally people are getting tired around this time, and so I need to like either have somebody that just like really brings the excitement and the energy, or just like allow people to like have a downtime too.
Yeah, I love the concierge idea, and, we have people at our event called networking ambassadors who are
Yeah,
similar, but they don't have the amount of data that you have
yeah,
because you've had all these conversations, so we're having to,
yeah,
like, use what people make publicly available on social
yeah,
media sites, and, of course, when you've got thousands of people, it's a different situation than when there's 100. Because when you're at 100, you're under Dunbar's rule. Are you familiar
yeah.
with that?
Oh,
That
yeah. No.
Dunbar's, Malcolm Gladwell is the one that talks about it in Tipping Point. When you get to around 140 people, the dynamics of a social organization change.
Yeah,
So you're staying under that where it's actually possible for everyone to get to know each other. When you go
yeah,
past that number, the dynamics change, and you as a leader can't know everyone. And you're going to have what you experienced when you had 350, where you can say hi because you
yeah,
did actually know everybody because you were on a call
yeah,
with them. But it's hard to remember things
yeah,
about them. And so I love that you're keeping it small now and have kind of learned that, which is counterintuitive when you're trying to increase ROI and you've gone smaller,
yeah.
but, it maybe works with your longer term goals. Would you say that's
Yeah.
true?
I would totally say that. I think there's a balance that we have to keep as event hosts. We call it the sizzle and the meat. In the
Mhm,
agenda and the conference, right? If like
mhm,
the sizzle is those like celebrity speakers that make it a no brainer for somebody to say, "I'm going to buy a ticket here," and
okay.
the meat is like having those opportunities and activities within the agenda, and even speakers that are really going to like impact where these people are at. And so I think like being able to balance that out by knowing who your audience is really important. Another thing that we have done that I would recommend if you don't have the time to like meet with everybody before, because there are people that really buy their tickets 2 weeks before, and it drives me crazy, but it happens all the time at events. So one thing that we have done through that concierge, when they're signing up, when they're coming into the hotel, we have concierge booth or like a little table with the person that is scheduling when their one-on-one is going to be with our team. And so we still get to like find out if we're not able to like find it out, it's because we couldn't schedule a call or whatnot. We still have that one-on-one at the event. And so we get to know them a little bit deeper, and we are able to connect them in conversations. And we try to get everybody. So like they actually do get even 3 points of touch points if they wanted to like partake into all the different opportunities that we have. And that's another great way of them to, get resources, things, connections, like whatever they need for their agency. And so we're really impacting the knowledge, but also the execution side.
Now, I don't think we've actually said the name of your event yet. So those of you who are watching, it's the Commitment Summit. I'm going to go ahead and show something here because you offered me a chance to offer a
Yeah.
really cool deal for your event.
Yeah.
Where if you use the code Unforgettable, you get $2,000 off, and it's only $2,001, right?
Yeah.
No, what's
2000.
the price? What's the price of your conference?
So our conference is $8,000 for two people at an all-inclusive resort. All you can eat, all you can drink, ground transportation. It really is like the white glove experience in Cancun this year. And so um, we always try to make it. And so like with this major discount that you get, you actually get it for like 6,000, which is like 3,000 per person, which is normally what you would spend going into a conference around 1,500 and like for the conference, and then you pay like whatever for the room and then whatever for the food and whatever for the Uber. So instead of doing all of that, you actually just spend $3,000 per person if you book it in a double room. and you get to experience, and all you have to do is get your flight to Cancun and have an amazing experience. And then you can add your kids if you wanted
That's what I was
to
gonna
that.
ask about. So
Mhm.
up front, you said it's family friendly. How does that work?
Yes.
If I wanted to
So
bring kids or something?
yeah. So normally our attendees, like, it depends, right? They would book a room, and normally they have to like plan because it's in the summer, and so July 7 to 11. So they have to plan, okay, how many kids, like who are we gonna bring? Are we gonna bring grandma? So that way, like, the spouse can also join the sessions or whatnot. So they can add at any point before the event. Like I think like 2 weeks before the event, they can add at any point their kids. There's like different pricing per night, and you can add them to your room. So there's a maximum of four normally that you can, four people total. So you can add them to your room. And there's different pricing if they're like below 13 years old or above 13 years old.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I know before Cancun, you've been doing it in Costa Rica, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because we were in
You're
Nicaragua, and so it was just like super easy for us to like get there. Now that we're in the U.S., it's just like now it's super easy to go to Cancun.
Yeah, no, for sure. So back to the concierges, because this is really intriguing to me.
Yeah.
If there's 100 people coming to the event, how many concierges are there?
So we actually have three concierge. Well, actually, sorry. For the first year, we had three concierge happening. Then we have our additional staff and leaders. So like owners of the event, like just JC and I, owners of the event, and then also like owners of like our mastermind are able to support as leaders of like the different topics that they need. And so, because we do a lot of the pre-screening before, we don't need to have that many sessions this year. I think we're planning on having two people there, so that way they can support with like having those like one-on-one sessions. And we're scheduling normally about 30 minutes, like honestly like 20 to 30 minutes, because we're really focused on like, okay, like where are you at, what are the things, like what has been impacting you from the sessions, like what are the things that you want to leave with. And we always like, I mean, we post about like this is gonna happen. They're aware that we're gonna ask them what is the thing that they need for this event,
Mm,
or for their agency. Like, what is the thing that they want to take out of the event? We're very clear about that, and so like they're already thinking about that once they buy their ticket, and so hopefully they have the clarity that they need. And normally they do. Like what's hurting you today, and
right.
so you normally are able to like share that. Yeah.
All right. So you said one of your three things that you're focused on and why that you want people to walk away with is a great experience. We've talked
Yes.
about some of that in terms
Yeah.
of the way that you're scheduling the event and giving people space. Are there any unique experiences that you try to create for everyone? And then maybe with that, any unique experiences you're trying to make for individuals that are special above and beyond kind of things?
So we've done a few, and it depends. I guess that kind of like goes into the structure of also like as you host an event, sort of like the ROI of the event and the things that you're able to do. We would love to have unique experiences for everybody, but that's not always possible. So, for example, our mastermind members, something that we do is that we attach our mastermind 2 days after the event. So we actually pay for our mastermind members to get 2 extra nights. So they buy their tickets to the conference, but as the mastermind we pay 2 extra nights for them to stay. And so that way we're able to sort of debrief on everything that we have learned right there. And it's just an amazing experience because like we have gone through like so much knowledge, so many ideas, and we get to like come even in a smaller circle, right? Like we're normally about 30 people like there in a more intimate setting, like debriefing on what we just learned for 3 days, which I think is super powerful. Another thing that we have done in the past is we have done meets and greets. So like for when we had VIPs experiences, for example, that people could opt in, those people would get like some one-on-ones. But honestly, because the event, we try to do it in such an intimate scale, and we're very specific with our speakers on what the goal is for the event, which is really connection. I mean, previous years, we had Willie and Corey Robertson from Duck Dynasty, Jesse Itzler, and all these people. I mean, we have done ice bath with Jesse Itzler. We have done because the attendees and the speakers are all there in an all-inclusive resort. I mean, Willie and Corey Robertson were in like hammocks and like hanging out by the pool with attendees. I think they got more one-on-one time than I even did as the host of the event, which I love. I love that we get to see Kevin Harrington smoking cigars with some of our attendees like by the beach. I mean, like what an amazing. So like there's things that we honestly don't craft in terms of detail. We just let the experience happen, but we do set the intention for everybody there. And so when you get to do that with the speakers, they really go the extra mile, and you know which speakers are going to go the extra mile, and that's why you continue to bring them. And another thing that we do is that we also always try to bring people that have spoken in the past a second time or even a third time. And the reason for that is because you get to build deeper relationships. So, like people that heard Kevin Harrington, for example, speak on year one, we invited him again on year two. Now he remembers them because they may have been part of the meet and greet, or they were like at least from their face, and so like they're able to like go deeper and like asking them a real question, instead of just like, "Hi, how are you doing? My name is Karen," blah blah blah. It's like, "Hey, Kevin, like I heard you last year, and I heard you this year," and like blah blah, blah. So like they're able to just go deeper into those interactions.
I love that. What percent of your audience are repeat customers, whether mastermind
Mm.
members or they've been before versus new customers?
I would say about at least 50% are returning. It's a big chunk. So yeah. So right now, for example, I know I have 22 tickets, but I have some returning attendees that still are like that they're confirmed. That they have confirmed, they just haven't bought their ticket. So until the money is in, you cannot count with that. Until
Yep,
they pay, you cannot count with that, right? And so,
right.
but yeah, we have a lot of returning. I haven't actually gotten the percentage, which I think would be very interesting to see from year to year. Um, but yeah, I think as you make it more and more intimate, people have that opportunity to like just build those relationships, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna see you again next year, right? And so you build that sort of like camp type of feeling, I guess.
Exactly. Well, and it's an interesting trend in events today that there's a lot of events that are moving towards smaller versus
Hmm.
going larger. And so I found it fascinating that you're doing that. Now, I have to ask the question. I know I asked you before we went on if there's anything I can't ask. So you answer this however you want to. But Kevin Harrington and some of these big name speakers come with a
Yeah,
big price tag. You
yeah,
reduce the number of people that are coming to the event, so your budget clearly shrinks. How
yeah.
are you still able to, or have you said, you know what? It's really not about the big name speaker. It's about the community and the conversations we're having, and we don't need those big name celebrities as much anymore. Or how have you processed that?
That's a great question, because I think anybody that is like hosting events, and when you're going to events, it's kind of like that again, the sizzle and the meat, right? This year we have actually like turned down the number of like celebrity speakers and focused more on like the topics that we're going to touch upon in the agenda, and bringing experts in those topics. So and these are like well-known people within our space as well. It might not be, a Jesse Itzler, or something like that, but it's people that honestly can speak more and can impact your business life better than probably a motivation. Because normally the celebrities are really more in the motivational, like visionary, like I want to like dream bigger than I'm dreaming today.
Right.
We're gonna have a few speakers. Like one of them is Nick Santonastaso, who has spoken at Tony Robbins stages before. If you see a picture of him, you probably like recognize him, which I think is going to be an amazing experience for everybody to be able to have, and it's going to be definitely motivational. But our speakers really range from, and you can go into the website, thecommitmentsummit.com, and you can see the full speaker list in there. But I think we are, yeah, definitely focusing more on the meat this year and making sure that everybody is able to get tangible experience. Like one of the sessions, for example, my favorite session actually, one of the two favorite sessions that I'm going to have is we're going to have a panel with JC and our COO. So like go exploring the CEO relationship for a digital marketing agency.
Mm.
That's one of the things, like hiring your operations person and your leader in operations is such a pain in our industry, because most of the leaders are visionaries, right? So like how do you get to connect with somebody and work together and really push, I mean, two major components of the business, right? Like the sales, the vision, and all this stuff, the branding, and all that, with the fulfillment, the operations, the client experience, and all this stuff together. And so that's going to be super impactful. And we have going to have like sessions on client retention systems, copywriting, YouTube, how to exit your agency, even if you don't want to exit it, at some point, but just how do you prepare for that? So yeah, we're definitely focusing and we reduced the sessions a lot this year. That's I think something interesting.
Hmm.
We're not doing like a full day because we're going to be in Cancun as well, so that's going to be really interesting, that we're testing out.
Well, and it's again, you understand your audience. You know
Mhm.
why they're coming. You're trying to build community and not just content. These are people who can probably get that content somewhere else, but if they can have the
Exactly.
conversations with each other, with the experts while they're there, you're creating space for that in a place that makes it super easy. Love all those things. And so, again, you designed something that you knew you would show up for, and clearly you've made something attractive for those who do. Folks, if you're watching this, go check out their website. Especially if you're in an agency, but even if you're just an event person, I think there's a lot we can learn from the way that Karen and JC have been crafting this, even in just a short 3 years. Is it your third or your fourth event that you're
Third
doing?
year. Yeah, third year.
Third year. Yeah. So this is like a baby still. It's a toddler when
It's
it
a
comes
toddler.
to events. So with that, toddlers make messes. Toddlers are noisy.
Yeah.
Toddlers fall down. Like what are some lessons that you've learned in your first couple of years that you've fixed so that this year you're not going to repeat those mistakes or those things that maybe didn't go the way you wanted them to go?
Absolutely. I think like it's funny because as you were speaking on, we get to know the type of people that are coming. Um, we definitely have seen how the business owners, the community that we have built has matured, in 3 years of, I mean, if they're coming back to back every year, they're maturing in their business life. And so that's why we were able to like make this like sort of like decisions on adjusting the agenda and making sure that it's not as long. For example, like our first year was like so many sessions back to back. People, even though like every session was super exciting and powerful, they were exhausted by the end of the day. And
Yeah.
so that's, I think, one of the main mistakes that we made as a host, because yes, information can be great, but what is the thing that they can execute on? And that's as an event host, you want people to find that golden nugget within your event that they're going to execute, so that way the next year they felt that, yeah, that was worth me coming. And that's where you have to wait, like just bringing celebrities, as you mentioned, is great. It's a great opportunity to connect, and as digital marketing agencies, like we all love, like the picture and the authority that brings. But if you really are focusing on being a mature business owner, and you want to focus on having a business that can outlast, the first 5 years, that, normally business like fail in the first 5 years, within the first 5 years, right? And so if you want to do that, if you want to focus on how do you create that legacy, that long-term lifestyle business, even, if that's one of your goals, you really need to find the sessions, and the agenda is crucial for that. You need to make sure that whatever is being spoken on is not just motivational for you, because yeah, that's gonna give you the energy to go back, and I feel refreshed, honestly, after I've taken a break from the event. I feel refreshed in the content that we've, created and gotten, because it's things that I need as the end of the day, right, as a business owner. So yeah, I think it's super important. That has been one of the things that we have learned, just like focusing on the agenda, making sure that, we're able to create that experience for people to have those pockets of spaces to network, I think, as well, because content is great, but 50% what you get from or event is from the stage, from the speakers, and the rest is really from those interactions and building that community. And so this year, that's why we have reduced the agenda quite a bit. Like we're not doing like full blown, like 10 sessions per day type of thing. We didn't do that, but like just being a little bit dramatic. And that we're hoping that, and we have seen that last year we reduced them as well. This year we're getting bolder and bolder. As you get more confident in the value that you're bringing your people, you get more confident in like, yeah, I don't need to put on this mascara and like all this makeup to look like I'm, like just the prettiest girl. I feel more confident in my skin, and so that's what I think it's happening for us this year.
So let me ask, there's a trend in
Hmm.
event planning where people are saying that shorter sessions is better than longer. Are
Hmm.
you following that trend, or are you just saying we're doing fewer sessions but keeping them longer because we want to go deeper? How are you answering that?
A mix. So we're actually incorporating workshops this time. And so workshops are normally 90 minutes. So that's your longer sessions. And then we're also reducing the time in our agenda and doing like more tactical session, sorry. So like our speakers, instead of like building up how in a session you like build up the energy and like this is why, and you explain the problem, you talk about the problem. But we're talking about more like tactical strategies there. Like, this is what you have to do to solve this problem. Like, you already know the problem. You're already doing $1 million. Like, I don't have to explain you why this is something that's important to you. You're already feeling the pain. This is how you're going to solve it. And so, more tactical sessions that are less time, but including also those workshops that do allow people that need to focus on raising their hands and have that one-on-one with the speakers and be able to that. So it's this time it's going to be a combination of a mastermind. If a mastermind had a baby with like a small conference, like something sort of like that.
Oh, that is funny. I love that. What would you call a master baby? I don't know what you
A
call it.
master baby.
That's probably
A
dangerous to
master
even try to
yeah.
come up with a name on the fly. Um, Now you
And on
said
the
that
live too.
your mastermind members are sticking around for an extra 2
Yeah.
days, so they're getting the chance to process and debrief, what's going on, but are you creating intentional space within the main event for those who aren't mastermind members so that they also can do that? 'Cause if I know your audience, I know that
Yeah.
they get on the plane, they go back home, and they've already started back on their business on the trip to the
Yeah.
plane. They're not waiting till they get home, so
Yeah.
how are you creating that space so that they can not only get the refreshment you're talking about, but internalize the things that they need to really take action on? Is that something that's baked into your schedule too?
Yeah, so cutting that time, so the sessions that I think we're gonna go into sessions up until 1 o'clock, and then the rest it's gonna be like free time, and then we're gonna have a workshop at the end of the day.
Mm.
So that's gonna allow the people that do not want to be part of the workshop, they're gonna have either they're gonna focus that time on like having that like silence of like, okay, I'm gonna go back and like just summarize the things that I need to do, or have that networking opportunity because we're gonna do activities like we're gonna go play volleyball, at the beach. It's like that allows a little bit of connection with people. We're gonna have a bonfire one of the days as well. So like it's gonna be different every day. But yeah, I just that cutting the agenda quite a bit, it's gonna help that opportunity to get people to okay, let me debrief on today and what happened. And if they want to come back for a workshop that is intentional, like we're actually thinking that the workshops are gonna be like 20 to 30 people. And so like that's the sort of like very intimate like mastermind component that we're gonna have within our like a small conference.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier that you make it as an opportunity to sign up for the mastermind when you're coming to the
Mhm,
event, but that's not really the goal of the event. Your goal is
mhm.
to build communities. Did I hear that right? Or
Yeah, correct. Yeah. I think every event has a what do you do at an event? Like if you're hosting an event, you're doing it for different reasons, right? And so like you're doing it for branding, authority building, connections, and then obviously to sell something at the end. Like that's how business owners that host events recoup, all this energy. That's why you go a lot, a lot through this pain. It's because you have an offer at the end. So our offer really is like if any of the things that have been mentioned as the pain points and solutions have been like speak to you where you're at today. You want to like focus on this and continue this type of community feeling, and get to like meet on a quarterly basis and all this stuff, then you can join our mastermind. So we really just give them an option to continue doing what they probably need to do for their business in a more consistent basis instead of like once a year.
and they've hopefully experienced it with the community that you built. So you've given them a super strong taste of it, and some of them are ready, some aren't. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I love that though that you're not like forcing it down their throat, but instead
Yeah.
it's more of an invitation. Like, hey, if you liked this, we do this 3 more times every year. Um,
Correct.
let's say someone on site says, "I want to join." They
Mhm.
probably can't extend their stay right there and then. They have to wait till the next, or could they?
They normally can, and so that's something that we mentioned to everybody that's coming that is not a mastermind member. Hey, our mastermind stays 2 extra days, so if you're considering, make sure that your flight is able to be rescheduled because we do pay for 2 extra days for them to stay, and so, every year we've had people that extend their flights, and so we're able to include them as a 2 extra night, um, for them to as kind of like they're signing a gift, to like join our mastermind. They get to connect with people right there, so they continue the party for a little longer.
Yeah, that's a pretty great incentive, especially Costa Rica or Cancun or somewhere exotic like
Yes,
that. That's awesome.
exactly. Yeah. So
Folks, I don't know if
we're like
anyone go
making
ahead.
sure that they know. No, we're just making sure that they know that that's a possibility, so they don't feel like, oh man, I would have loved to take that opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, again, we're talking about the Commitment Summit, and there's 22 spots as of right now, although there's some people threatening to take some of those that may cause it to disappear. So you guys who are watching this can take advantage of a special deal that Karen's got with $2,000 off, which is pretty incredible. I'm wondering, Karen, for the people watching here, and yes, it's going live, and so who knows how many more will watch it later, but tell us something secret that only people who are watching this live show are going to know about that you're doing at the event that you're really excited by. Is there anything that you can give away?
That's a very trick question because we're like literally in the middle of the planning. We know we always do some sort of like little giveaways and things like that. So like this year we're like in the planning stages of like, okay, what is that gonna be? Like last year we did helicopter rides, and so like that was super fun for the attendees. Like they got to experience that. So we did like raffles, with the people that were attending. This year, I don't think a helicopter is like available in the area that we're at for some reason, but we're thinking about doing something very similar. So if you want to get access to that, like the sooner you get your ticket, the better, because we're gonna start doing those raffles pretty soon.
I know snorkeling in Cancun is pretty cool, but there's
Yeah.
also some trips that you can take inland to see some of
Yeah.
the Aztecs ruins that are close by there. I forget which
There
one
is
it is.
that. We're looking at like swimming with the dolphins. There's also another island close by that you can just do like a little trip to. And so like those are the type of experiences. We haven't announced this yet. Okay, this is gonna be really fun. We haven't announced this yet, but we're actually gonna have a sort of like salsa dancing like little contest like
Ooh.
in one of the nights. I think for the pool party. And so that's gonna be fun to like see what these people win. If and I feel like I'm not a great dancer. The Latin blood is in me, but I think it's always fun to see people try something new. And so like I hope everybody gets to join us in that little competition that we're gonna set up.
That sounds like a great content machine. Getting some of the digital agency owners trying to learn salsa dancing. I think that's gonna probably break the internet.
I think so too. I
That's
think so too.
amazing. That's amazing. Well, Karen, I so appreciate you joining. Folks, if you've got any questions for Karen or for me, go ahead and drop those in the comments. We would love to answer those. But while we're waiting for any comments, we'd love any of you who are in the agency world that fit this event that Karen has created. This is a great opportunity. And if I was an agency owner, I would want to go to this event. Like it
Yeah.
sounds like it'd be really, really cool. And you've put a lot of intentionality into the way that you're designing it to build a community. The fact that you've made it small so that everybody gets to know everybody, that you know what the problems are that they're facing. And in fact, if you folks, if you didn't hear this at the beginning of the interview, Karen tries to solve a problem that you're having before you ever show up. Like on a strategy call, she gets to know something and she presents you with a solution to that problem so that when you come, you've already gained value out of the event, and maybe even as much as you spent on the event, which I think that's pretty incredible, Karen, that you're
Yeah.
doing that. That's not something very many events do, and you're obviously in the world of solving people's problems, and that's like what you try to do anyway. So you're giving a sample of what you accomplished, but it's you don't have to do that. You wouldn't have to do any of the things that you're doing like that. You could just say, "Come join us in Cancun. It's going to be awesome," and people would probably still show up. So I
Yeah.
love that you're going way above and beyond. So, anything else that you'd love to say about the event?
No, thank you, Phil, for this time. I've loved, sharing, and I think, at the end of the day, what matters is the people that you're surrounded by. And so I just want to remind everybody that if it's not this event, if it's not even a virtual, like find a place where you can find your own tribe. Because I think like we're all in business, at least like we're doing business all the time. And that's really what makes a difference, for us. Like there's so many ups and downs in business that it's just the people that you're able to talk to about the difficult stuff, the great stuff, but especially in the low times, I think that that's what really encourages us to be able to continue doing what we're doing. And so just I would recommend everybody, like if it's not this event, just find your tribe and do put yourself out of your comfort zone to be able to do that because it's totally worth it.
Let me ask you this, are you glad that you built your own event, or do you wish somebody else had done it?
It depends on the day and depends
Right?
depends on the day. Sometimes I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? Like, why am I like putting all this energy? And it is a lot to host an event. It's a lot that people don't see. Like a lot of like even tears. Like it's just like frustrations and things that happen, problem solving. But I think every time that we've left TCS, JC and I, we just look at each other. It's like, okay, was this worth it, for us? Because it's time away from our kids and even our team and all of that. But every time that we see people, just like the transformation they have gotten. I mean, like last year, like there were Bible studies that were started, like from like just one of the sessions and just little things like that that I think for us it mean more than, whatever ROI we can get at the event or not. It's just I think that's why we do what we do and I hope that that speaks to people as well.
Well, that's a really interesting point because ROI isn't just about how many people sign up for your offer at the end or how much profit you made, gross revenue minus expenses. It's those intangible things that are why you keep doing it. It's the
Yeah.
community, it's the transformation. And I think being able to spell that out because putting on an event, let's be honest, folks, if you've created one, it's hard. If you haven't created one, it's hard. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of details you have to think about. And sometimes you're wondering, why am I doing this? And you might lose your hair because you pulled it out. That's not why I lost mine, but it can happen. It definitely cause you to go gray. I will say that. I was not gray when we first started doing events. So, yeah, so I
Yeah.
think understanding those different measures of what is a successful event. Are there any others that you would add to that list, Karen, of things that you look at and say, okay, this was a success because of these 5 things?
I think it's always like a particular like it's personal, I think, for every event host. For us, we really value like last year, for example, we had a session from Marriage Helpers. Amazing speaker, Kimberly Holmes. She's just if you're doing events, like try to get her to speak in your event. But it was all about the love path, sorry, and how and we had so many marriages in that room, and marriages like crying and like just like feeling encouraged and like feeling like they had a route. I had like friends that were like messaging us of like, wow, like we're gonna put in place, like some of the things that they helped us to like realize about how we are communicating with each other and how we need to improve in our marriage. And so how can you put an ROI to that? I don't know. For me, like that would be really hard to put an ROI to that. But I think, at the end of the day, I want to walk out of this earth thinking that I did what I was supposed to and meant to do, to like leave it a little bit better, or that I helped at least, put people together that could help each other or make a bigger impact that I could even make. And so it's really particular for every person, I think, and for us, it's just more about like the value of the people, making sure that they're leaving, with something, that changes their life and in return changes their families because everything's generational. And so I think we would never probably see the real impact and ROI on what we do.
Well, and because you are trying to do more than just help someone solve a funnel issue or plumbing issue with their business or whatever it might be, but you're interested in their lives, you're interested in their marriages. And I'm going to guess something here, and I don't know if this is true, but I would guess the divorce rate among entrepreneurs and agency owners as a subset of that might be higher than normal. It's definitely the stress on marriage is high when
I
you're
mean,
an
it's already high right
it's
now,
already high.
right?
Yeah.
So, I would assume so. And so, I mean, if we are able to do that, and we also bring our team to our events, and so like, like it's just it's such a I mean, we have different ROI, like in the event, like our team gets to see like why them looking at these accounts like matters, and like just have that, like being able to like be with other people that understand what they're doing and they're not crazy, like just to care about like, their campaigns and things like that. And so it's just gives you
Yeah.
so much perspective, I think.
Well, and I think if you're serving people all year long and you're taking them to a cool place where you just get to be human and not just do content stuff, you're getting to know the people that you're taking care of all year long. And you've got
Yeah.
relationships that have built differently. And so you've created a space where that can happen. And so I love that just the intentional way that you're going about that. So
Yeah.
I don't see any questions that have come in. They
Yep.
may be happening on some of the platforms and they're not feeding in here to StreamYard. So we'll go check those out later, folks, if you've got questions for me or for Karen. But with that, I think we'll go ahead and bring this conversation to a close. Karen, thank you for being a guest here on the live show. We really appreciate having you here.
Thank you so much. This was a great conversation as usual. I'm just glad we recorded this one.
Well, we've threatened every time that we talk that, we should record this and just go live with it. And so we said, let's just do that next week. And so that's why we're here today. And it just happens that you have a cool offer that you were able to make available too. So I
Mm,
hope somebody takes advantage of that. I wish I could. I would be there in a heartbeat, but maybe that'll be next year. So
absolutely.
thanks,
Thank you so much.
everybody. Enjoy your
See ya.
day.